This is the second shift, the one after the one they see. You're not broken, you're not lost, you're just tired of being everything to everybody. This is the second shift, where the real work starts. Not fixing, just showing up, witnessing the size of your own heart.
So you come on shift today and the nurse manager has resigned. Why do nurse managers turn over so fast? What happens, though, when an excellent bedside nurse accepts the role of the nurse manager? That's a question I want you to sit with for just a second. All right, today we're going to answer this question and we're going to dive into the skills excellent bedside nurses need when they assume the role of the nurse manager. Hello, everyone. My name is Patrick LaRose. I'm a nurse, I'm a coach, and I'm the creator of the Second Shift on Substack. Thank you for joining me as we explore the nurse manager role and what happens when a skilled, seasoned nurse assumes the role of the manager. Okay, let's get into it.
The second shift.
Well, here's what you rarely hear from HR or for senior leadership. Excellent nurses who assume the nurse manager role are often left to figure the role out by themselves, or from a nurse manager mentor from another unit who barely has been out of orientation themselves for 3 months and rarely has the time to support the new nurse manager. New nurse manager turnover is significant because the job is relentless and the expectations often feel impossible. Yes, the job is tough, and it is. I've lived it, I know it. It's 24/7, and the priorities seem to never end. But with the right support, an excellent bedside nurse can easily transition. Well, did I really use the word easily? Let's strike that from this podcast. A bedside nurse can transition into the role, and they can be successful. But let's talk about how that happens. The reason that I want to talk about this today is because I was that nurse manager. Excellent on the floor, covered open shifts, the nurse that led quality counsel and worked to ensure that patients on our unit were getting the best care possible. I received caregiver awards and held the respect of most of the nurses on my unit. The unit saw a revolving door of nurse managers. It was rare to see a manager last more than 6 months to a year. Does that sound familiar? When the CNO asked me to assume the role, I had held leadership roles before, but never one leading a unit with nurses as the primary workforce. I remember like it was yesterday that being an excellent floor nurse in no way prepared me to lead a unit with the complexities like this, and nothing in my RN education prepared me for the challenges that I would face as the nurse manager. You see, I'm not talking from a textbook here. I share my lived experiences so that you can see that what I'm about to tell you is real and lived.
The second shift.
All right, well, let's get into the first lesson here. The first lesson is that you're a great bedside nurse, but you may not have the leadership skills needed for the complexities of running an inpatient unit. Staffing, patient satisfaction, practice standards, care benchmarks, goal planning, budgeting, and a myriad of responsibilities you rarely see in the job description. A registered nurse with experience understands the patient experience, has been where the bedside nurses are, and understands the challenges that nurses face providing care. A nurse manager can either make the life of a nurse more challenging or can provide support that makes the work a little easier. When you round the unit and ask nurses what tools and equipment they need to do the job, you establish credibility as a leader. Not only do the nurses appreciate your visibility, but when you provide the tools and equipment they need, you make their work life easier. And hopefully you gain cooperation. So here's what your life looks like as a nurse manager when you do this. You get to the unit just before shift changed. Night nurses are running around. You know it. They're finishing meds. They're completing last rounds. They're charting. And they're preparing to give report to the day shift, which will be arriving soon. You go directly to the nurse where he or she is, because that is what visibility looks like. You did not call a meeting. You did not set up a meeting in your office. You went to where the nurses are. And then you asked them, what do you need to do your work? What is the biggest pain point that you have? All of a sudden, you're establishing your credibility as their leader, and you are offering a plan that will make the nurses' work a little bit easier. And the fact that you're on the night shift and being visible sends a direct message to this shift. You know, the one that often ends up with the stale pizza, that their opinion and what they need and want is important. All right, let's just take a moment that, we're talking today about nurse managers on Substack. So join me over there. I want you to take a moment to click the subscribe link in the show notes. If you're already a subscriber, consider upgrading to the paid tier and join the conversation of other nurses as we talk about becoming a nurse manager and the support that you need to be successful. If you are listening on your podcast app, click follow to ensure that you're getting my weekly podcast. When you have mentoring, coaching, and support as a new nurse manager, the job can truly be enjoyable, and you can make change that creates a collaborative environment for the nurses and improves patient care. In Lesson 1, we talked about visibility. Lesson 2 is about what happens when you engage with the nurses and provide them with the tools and the equipment they need. Let's remember one key fact here. Nurses are the front line of care, not you. You direct the front line of care. But when you fail to listen to what the nurses are saying and fail to act on what they need, you become a part of the problem. Is that harsh? Hell yeah, it is. But I never promised to be nice. I promise to be truthful, accurate, and give you the tools and the equipment that you need to be a successful nurse manager. So here's what your life looks like as a nurse manager when you listen to your nurses. On rounds, the nurse who asked for the upgraded IV pumps, the ones that the other units have, but your unit does not have. She sees you on rounds and she says, "Hey, thank you so much for the new IV pumps. They are so much easier to use and they take much less time." Another nurse comes up to you on rounds and says, "Thank you for getting the 2 additional supply scanners. The ones that they had, they needed to search for because they were old, they didn't work all the time, and they were always looking for another one so they could scan, their supply item." Your life as a nurse manager is about providing the tools and the equipment your nurses need on the front line as caregivers. Okay, I know you have a picture of a new nurse manager in your head right now as you're hearing this podcast. That picture is probably coming right up for you. Maybe she's struggling in the role and feels like she's not getting the support that she needs. Here's how you can help her. Copy the link to this podcast and text it to her right now. Please don't do it later. She's going to thank you for it. And of course, I'm always going to say thank you as well. And of course, if you're a nurse executive listening to this podcast and you know firsthand that your new nurse managers are the best nurses on the unit, you can support them by offering them a coaching service that helps them transition into their new role. If you're a nurse leader, please give me a call, book an appointment. Let's talk about how we can support your nurses together.
The second shift.
Okay, let's get into lesson 3, which is a hard truth. It's one that nurses are not talking about. The truth is not often published in the literature or even a part of the job advertisement. The moment that you step into that office as the nurse manager, you become the enemy. Yes, I said it, and maybe you felt it. Your favorite nurses to work with on shift, they look at you differently. When you enter the nursing station or the break room, the conversation shifts. You need to know you're not imagining this, okay? Your intuition is right. So what's happening here? You've not changed. You're still the same nurse that they used to have fun with and they used to cut up with when they had a free minute. The same nurse that used to bitch about staffing. None of that has changed. The only change is that you now have the title, the office, the responsibility. You hold control over each nurse's employment, performance, and future. That is what's changed, and that is huge. Step back just for a minute. Remember a time when the nurse manager role had changed and you had gone about your business like nothing was different, but in your heart and in your mind, you knew the direction of the unit would change and you wondered if you would like the new manager. What would her expectations be, and would you be able to survive this individual? These are real emotions and feelings. Today, your staff is having the same feelings about you. They may be asking themselves, how long will she last? Will she expect me to perform differently, and will I be able to meet her expectation? Here is one truth you, as the nurse manager, need to consider. They know you. They have been in the ranks with you for a long time, and they are asking this question. Is she going to advocate for us in the C-suite, or is she simply going to become one of the minions the C-suite loves? Woo. That's a tough question, but one that needs to be answered. What will your approach be for the unit? What will your advocacy look like? So here's what it looks like your life as a nurse manager. The first thing is get clear from the C-suite. What do they need? What do they expect? Chances are they want you to manage hours per patient day effectively, to ensure a staffing plan that works for the unit and works for the budget. They want your unit to meet the standards of care benchmarks. They want you to manage turnover, and they want strong patient satisfaction scores. These are all big ticket items that reflect your leadership of the unit. More importantly, you will never be able to achieve these without the cooperation of your nursing workforce. Your visibility, your advocacy for the unit and the nurses, and your commitment to meeting performance standards are all wrapped up in this role. This is where a coach and supportive mentor help you better understand how to achieve these successes and to move forward in your new role as a nurse manager.
The second shift.
All right, let's go ahead and bring all these lessons together. So in summary, the 3 lessons are real and can lead you to becoming a successful nurse manager and nurse leader on your unit. Visibility is central. Understanding what the nurses need to do their jobs effectively. Pay attention to your nurses and what they are saying. Respond to the workforce as a trained professional group that not only understands the needs of the unit, but want the care they provide to be the best, not only just meeting benchmarks, but maybe even exceeding them. This is no different than the goals of the C-suite. Understand your advocacy role. You are in the middle person between the nurses and the C-suite. Your approach to meeting the needs of both will be the deciding factor for the nurses if you are the enemy or you are their advocate. Equally as important is meeting the unit performance needs required by the C-suite. Get crystal clear on your advocacy role that involves the nurses in the decision-making and shared governance of the unit and designing a management plan that meets the needs of the hospital. No one said the job was going to be easy, and quite frankly, it's not. This balance will become what defines you as a nurse manager and a nurse leader, an advocate for your nurses, and meeting the needs of the C-suite. Okay, so your assignment this week is going to be to open up your huddle on both shifts. So I want you to do this on day shift and night shift and ask the simple question, what can I do today for you that will make your life as an RN on this unit a little easier? Yeah, it really is the same question that you asked in your visibility rounds, but it's just asked a little differently. All right, so what happens next? Determine the priority from what the nurses had said and make that request happen if it's possible. Okay, so I want you to come back to this podcast and leave a comment or direct message me because I want to know what your nurses asked for and what you did and the overall outcome.
The second shift.
All right, 2 invitations today. First, please leave a comment and let me know what came up for you as a result of this podcast. I read and respond to every comment. Your thoughts are important to me, and I truly want to hear from you. If you are a nurse manager new to the role, or you know a nurse manager new to the role, have them reach out to me. I work with nurse managers who want to create an environment where nurses feel engaged in their jobs and where the nurse manager has the skills to meet the needs of both the unit and the C-suite. Book a free call, nurse to nurse. There's no obligation, there's no requirements. It's just you and me having a conversation to see where you are today. The link to book the call is in the show notes, or you can simply direct message me on Substack. I will be very happy to set up a call with you. So if you're listening at 1:15 in the morning and you're wondering how in the world you're going to face the next few days in your role as a new nurse manager, it's time to talk. All right, today we answered the question of why a nurse manager turns over so fast. And we also talked about what it's like to be one of the best nurses on the unit who becomes the new nurse manager. The discussion was real and truthful, harsh at times. I agree. Nurse managers turn over because of a lack of support and often understanding of how leadership methods can help them engage in the nursing workforce. A reminder, you got here because of your talent. Get the support you need to be successful in this new nurse manager role. I'm Patrick LaRose. This is The Second Shift. Thank you so much for listening today, and I will see you next week.
You waited for the perfect time, waited till the kids were grown, the schedule aligned. But permission never comes with the bow on top. Sometimes you just gotta be the one who stops. This is the second shift, the one after the one they see. You're not broken, you're not lost, you're just